Scott just made the point Jefferson seems to be a lot more secure, not just... Shocking news. We're about to witness the first ever divorce of a sitting U.S. president. That's right. Barack Obama has filed for divorce from reality, citing irreconcilable differences. I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta, and with me to share the news first reported Sunday night by Steve Croft on 60 Minutes, of course, Scott Ott and Bill Whittle. Now, gentlemen, before we get to the clips from the 60 Minutes interview, I want to show you this screen cap from CBS, from the story itself. Take a look at this. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into one frame, but to me, Croft looks like he's so embarrassed by his own president that it's actually making him angry. And if so, I think many of us can empathize with that. Now, I want you to watch what happens when a combative reporter goes head-to-head, maybe the most combative reporter Obama has ever faced while sitting in the White House. He goes head-to-head with a delusional president, a man fully divorced from the reality around him. Watch this.
A year ago when we did this interview, there was some saber rattling between the United States and Russia on the Ukrainian border. Now it's also going on in Syria. You said a year ago that the United States, America leads, we're the indispensable nation. Mr. Putin seems to be challenging that leadership.
In what way? Let's think about this.
Well, he's moved troops into Syria, for one. Yeah. He's got people on the ground. Right. Two, the Russians are conducting military operations in the Middle East for the first time since World War II. So that's bombing the people that we are supporting.
So that's leading, Steve?
Wow, talk about delusional. Putin is systematically going after the 10,000 or so CIA-sponsored anti-Assad fighters in Syria, ignoring ISIS, supposedly our main enemy. Obama is doing essentially nothing about it, and the president says that his leadership is not being challenged. Scott, do you think Obama really believes this stuff? Is he in that much of a bubble? And can we learn anything here from Croft's line of questioning?
Well, you know, I don't know. Your whole premise that President Obama is now divorced from reality, I didn't realize that that Obama and reality even had a relationship, were shacking up or occasionally getting some in the back of a station wagon. I don't think that there is any connection between Barack Obama and reality, although it is refreshing to see a mainstream media reporter basically laying out the facts before the president. It's very telling, President Obama's reaction to this, though. He does not see leading as leading. And so that's, you know, in his previously we knew that he likes to lead from behind. I guess they would now have us believe that President Obama has cleverly tricked Vladimir Putin into taking over the American role in the Middle East so that we don't have to do it. And then later on, he'll claim victory and perhaps another Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, folks, I've been warning about the Russo-Iranian axis growing in the Middle East for about 2 years now, and you're seeing it in action, and our president is just oblivious. All right, next clip, let's pick up right where we left off, only now the former guest college lecturer is trying to lecture the man who's trying to interview him. Watch this.
Let me ask you this question. When I came into office, Ukraine was governed by a corrupt ruler who was a stooge of Mr. Putin. Syria was Russia's only ally in the region. And today, rather than being able to count on their support and maintain the base they had in Syria, which they've had for a long time, Mr. Putin now is devoting his own troops, his own military, just to barely hold together by a thread his sole ally.
He's challenging your leadership, Mr. President. He's challenging your leadership.
Steve, I got to tell you, if you think that running your economy into the ground and having to send troops in order to prop up your only ally is leadership, then we've got a different definition of leadership.
Wow.
No, we don't.
Barack Obama.
No, we don't.
Right.
You're running our economy into the ground, and you're claiming to be our leader.
You know, I was going to set you up for that, Bill. Come on, let me do my job here. All right, Bill, Barack Obama, President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of our armed forces, he thinks that Putin is the one in the weaker position because Putin is defending his allies in Syria, killing our friends, or at least our supposed friends. Is there a case here? Is there a case here to be made for invoking the 25th Amendment and removing this guy from office for being dangerously delusional?
There's been a case for that since before he was elected. And I'd like to just get off of the small issue, which is the catastrophe in the Middle East. And I'd like to get to the bigger issue, which is the man's been in office for 7 years now, and this is the first time he's ever been interviewed by a journalist. Instead of a member of the audiovisual department of the Democratic Party, he's interviewed by an actual journalist. And the thing that is so fascinating to me is to watch this man's body language and to listen to how he responds, especially in that first segment. You know, he's actually having somebody put some facts in the table that's not flattering to him. And it's very quiet. It's kind of, yeah, yeah, oh, you know, he's challenging your leadership. Oh, I don't know about that. He's scared. He's scared, Steve. You can see it in his eyes. The guy's scared. He's never had to answer tough questions before. Of all the things we complain about with this guy, it's been this the whole time, right? Is this sense that this guy who's been praised to the skies for his intellect and his character and his coolness under fire, he doesn't have any intellect, he doesn't have any character, and he doesn't have to be cool under fire because he's never been under fire, ever. This guy has not faced an actual crisis in the time he's been in the White House. He's never faced a crisis. He's faced a bunch of crises of his own manufacturing, but he just heard about that on the news just the other day, so it's not really his fault. But a 9/11 style crisis, an actual honest-to-God crisis, you're going to see that look that you saw in that interview, which is that kind of like, hold on, this isn't going according to plan. What does the prompter say? He's actually terrified. And just to go to what Scott said a second ago, I have a vague memory of this, but something tells me back in the old days, maybe they're still doing it, that in Japan, in one of these training seminars, they would cover people with like stickers or pins, little pieces of cloth or something, and they were all shame. They were different areas of shame, and they, through their actions, they could have like areas of shame removed. You literally had to like remove the shame off of you. And I think we ought to take that interviewer there and we ought to pull that hack label off of him and leave journalist underneath, because the guy is actually doing his job for the first time in 7 years. A journalist doing their job, that guy has my respect. And I have to say this because it just bears repeating. People seem to think that when I say I want journalists, I want conservative journalists. I want guys who are going to go soft on our side. No. The job of the press is to go after the president all the time, everywhere. And that means our president, and it means their president as well. And when you see what happens to Barack Obama just during those glimpses of actual journalism, you see this guy's not fit to be president, and he never has been.
Well, Bill, let me give you a very, very quick follow-up. What do you think scares Obama more in that clip? The crisis is created in the Middle East, or being asked honest questions by a tough reporter?
B, without question, Steve. He doesn't care about the Middle East. He's on their side. He wants to realign the United States with Iran against Israel. This is crystal clear. I don't think he cares about Syria. I don't think he knows much about it and doesn't care about it. What is interesting is he is terrified about being asked the truth, and by a journalist that doesn't just bow down and ask him what his favorite color is, or how awesome is it being you, or how's Bo doing, you know? I mean, you can just look at his eyes. He's like, what is this? What's going on? I don't think we're going to see another 60 Minutes interview with this guy before this guy's out of office.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, folks, I want to say something about real leadership in the real world, not the delusional world. Obama's leadership has left Libya in ruins and wide open to ISIS, alienated Egypt and Saudi Arabia, decreased our leverage in Pakistan, and accomplished almost nothing in Afghanistan except to turn it into a safe haven for terrorists. Now, Obama's disastrous failure to lead in the Middle East has helped to flood Europe with refugees and potential terrorists, has encouraged the rise of Putin-like far-right parties throughout NATO and the European Union. Meanwhile, Moscow is increasing its nuclear arsenal beyond the New START treaty limits, while ours is already under them and shrinking. Now, maybe that is leadership, but look at where it's led us. For Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, I'm Steve Green.